Ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts as we prepare for takeoff.
Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. I decided to start a new series about different stories that I've experienced while being a flight attendant. So the first story is from my old airline. I was about 3 months in and I was sitting airport standby and I got a call from crew scheduling to report to the gate that I had been assigned a rotation. So at my old airline, the person or the flight attendant who was in charge is called the number 1. So it goes by positions 1, 2, 3, depending on how many flight attendants are needed on the aircraft. And I got assigned position 1. So the scheduler called and was like,
"Hi, you have been assigned rotation so-and-so. You are position 1 and you are going to Aruba. It is an Aruba turn. Please report to gate so-and-so."
So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my first time being the one. I'm so new. And I knew that that type of trip, the Caribbean turns, run fairly senior because they are worth a lot of hours to just work a turn. So I get to the gate and I get on the plane, and the other two flight attendants were already on the aircraft, and I go down and I'm like, "Hi, my name's Bridget." And one of the guys is like,
"How did you get this trip?"
And I'm like, "I'm on reserve and they assigned it to me." And they're
like, "Where's Karen?"
"I don't know. I don't even know who Karen is." So from the beginning, he's like,
"Don't ask me anything. I'm not helping you. Since you got the trip, you should know what you're doing."
So I'm like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. So that was the guy who was working in the back. The lady who was still working in the back but sat up front with me, well, I shouldn't say the back because we didn't have first class on this aircraft, but she was sitting up front with me, was like, "Don't mind him. I've worked with him a lot. He's really nice. He takes some time to get warmed up." And I'm like, okay. So we start the boarding process, and in the first row was this family, a husband and wife. And they get on and the man looks very ill. Oh, let me rewind. So the female flight attendant that I was working with was telling me, she's recently getting back on the line, that she had been on bereavement, and she tried to come back a few weeks ago, but it was too early. So hopefully that this flight goes smooth because she doesn't want any drama and everything. And I'm like, yes, I agree with you, and I'm sorry for your loss. Back to boarding. We start boarding, and the people that are sitting in the first row of the aircraft come on board. It's a husband and a wife, and the husband is looking pale and sick, and he's like kind of creeping his way to his seat. So the female flight attendant that was with me up front was like, "Sir, is everything okay? Are you okay?" And the wife is like,
"I need a blanket now."
And she's like, "I'm trying to find out if he's okay." And she's like,
"He'll be fine. I'm a nurse. He's a doctor. I'll take care of him on the flight." And she's like, "You need to give me a blanket now."
So per the regulations of my old airline, you couldn't sell things on the ground, and we sold blankets. So the flight attendant, she's trying to nicely explain to the woman, "Ma'am, unfortunately, I can't sell it to you on the ground, but once we get up in the air, we can get everything squared away and you can purchase a blanket." She was like,
"What type of person are you? You see my husband is sick. He needs a blanket now."
So she's like, "Okay, so if he's very ill, then he may not be fit to fly." So she calls a manager down to the gate, the flight attendant does, and is like, "We have this passenger who looks very ill, and I've asked him if he's fit to fly, but I don't really think he is." So the manager comes down, looks at the guy, and he's like, "Are you fit to fly?" And he like barely nods, and he was like, "He said he's fine. You guys can go." So I'm like, okay. So the female flight attendant's like, you know, I don't feel good about this, but I can't do anything. It's out of my hands at this point because he has confirmed twice that he's fit to fly. Everyone finished boarding. We close all the bins. We do our safety demo. We make sure the cabin's ready for takeoff, and we're sitting and we're strapped in our jump seats. And we are taxiing down the runway, waiting in line to take off, sitting in my jump seat. And on this aircraft, where the flight attendants are sitting at the forward boarding door, you can literally see the passengers who are sitting across from you. So it is the husband in the window seat, his wife, and then I don't know if the lady that was sitting next to them was a part of their party or not, but another person sitting in the window. The aisle. So we're taxiing, I'm in my brace position, and all of a sudden you see this man's eyes roll to the back of his head, and he starts convulsing and throwing up, and the wife is like,
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
and the female flight attendant sitting next to me is like, see, I knew this was gonna happen. And I am like, so I'm scrambling to try and get the phone to call the captain because we're literally next in line to take off. And I don't want us to take off with this guy having an episode. We don't know what's going on with him. So my hand's shaking. I'm trying to press all the buttons. I'm like trying to press all the buttons on the phone. And the captain finally answers and he's like,
Hello?
and I'm like, we have a medical emergency. Side note. So when I'm on the phone with the captain before, you know, when he's throwing up and convulsing and all that, and I'm like, take us back to the gate. She's like, no, I'm a nurse. He's a doctor. I'll take care of him on the flight. I'm like,
What?
lady, no. We don't know what's wrong with him. No flight is that important to risk your life and the lives of everyone on this aircraft. No. And he's like,
So what do you want me to do?
and I'm like, take us back to the gate. So he
was like, okay.
and I hang up the phone. So the female flight attendant kicked into gear. She got the oxygen mask. She starts pulling down all the medical emergency equipment from the overhead bins. And I, like, for a split second was still in shock because this is my first time being number one. I've never had a medical emergency. I'm like 3 months onto the line. And then I snap back into it and I'm trying to assist her and he is unconscious at this point. So she's screaming his name. The wife is screaming his name and he's not coming to. So we make our way back to the gate and the male flight attendant is standing in the back like this the whole time. Leaned up on the wall of the galley. And the female flight attendant was like, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. He's not okay. He is not okay. So Port Authority or whoever it is, the emergency people who work for the airport come and they meet us at our gate. Gate agent comes, drives the jet bridge to the plane, opens the door. Captain, makes an announcement.
We have, unfortunately, an ill passenger on board who has to be taken off. And once all of this is squared away, we will continue on our journey to Aruba.
So they deplane everyone to deal with this gentleman and his family. And they take him off the plane. No, sorry. They take him off the plane first. And his wife gets off and they're like, okay, well, we're going to take you to the hospital, sir. And, she's like,
Okay, here's your wallet. Here's your phone. Just text me and call me and you can book yourself on another flight to meet us in Aruba, but I'm still going.
and I'm like, what? What did she just say? She's like,
Yeah, I'm still going. The next flight to Aruba isn't until Wednesday, so I don't want to wait that long.
and the EMT's looking at her like, are you serious? You're going to leave your husband? So come to find out, it was like a party of 8 or 9 people. The husband and the wife, and their children, or his children's spouses, and none of them got off the plane to stay with the father. So now he's off the plane. They've taken him in the ambulance to the hospital, and they have to deplane everyone because there is bodily fluids in the cabin. So the cleaners had to come on, you know, clean the plane and make sure that everything was safe and in correct standards for the passengers to reboard. So all of that happens, and the wife really did not go, and none of his children went. So we reboard the plane, and she's sitting in the front, and I guess one of her friends who was also coming on the trip comes and sits next to her. And as everyone else is boarding, they're like giving her dirty looks like, I can't believe you. You should be ashamed of yourself. So she decides that she's going to start letting out crocodile tears.
Oh my God. I hope he's okay. I really hope he's okay.
And I'm just like, this is too much for me to handle on my first time being the number one. I didn't know I signed up for all of this. So we make it to Aruba, we let those people off, and we come right back. And that's the end of the story. I will never forget it. I am so thankful for the other flight attendant who was up front with me, because she had everything down packed. She knew what she was doing. She really went into go mode, and I needed that because I was terrified, completely terrified. But I hope the guy is okay. I don't know what happened. All right, you guys, so that's the end of my story. Thanks for watching the video, and hope to see you again.